the fallout wasn't quiet. It never is in Cleveland. As soon as Shedeur Sanders' name was read out as the 144th pick in the NFL draft, jaws didn't just drop. They hit the floor like someone had thrown a brick to the living room TV. A quarterback who had led Power 5 comebacks, dissected complex defenses, and carried himself with more composure than some 10-year veterans fell to the 5th round. And for what? The whispers were immediate. Politics. Attitude. Too much flash. Or worse, he's just Deion's kid. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. But here's the part the league isn't saying out loud. A lot of front offices didn't just pass on Shedeur. They dodge him. Not because of what he couldn't do, but because of what he represented. Swagger, autonomy, legacy, and above all else, a quarterback who came into the league not as a blank slate, but as a brand already formed that scared people. And no one leaned harder into that fear than the Cleveland Browns. Now, let's get this out of the way. Shedeur Sanders didn't choose the Browns. He landed there because the draft board, warped by narratives and hesitation, let him slide into the arms of a franchise that has made dysfunction a core part of its identity. The kind of team that builds a new house every season and somehow forgets the foundation every time. But if you think the Browns were thrilled about it, think again. Because from the very first press conference, you could feel the tension in the air. GM Andrew Berry gave the usual canned lines. Great athlete, tremendous upside, excited to have him. But nothing about the moment felt like a victory lap. It felt cautious, like someone had just been handed a live grenade and wasn't sure which way the pin was facing. And then there was Jimmy Haslam. If you're new here, Haslam is the type of NFL owner who watches his team crash and burn and responds by swapping out the fire extinguisher for more gasoline. He's been through enough quarterbacks to fill a group photo and somehow still manages to act surprised every time things fall apart. Under his watch, the Browns have become the league's case study in instability. From front office power struggles to coaching carousel drama to locker room politics that make Congress look functional. And Shedeur? He walked right into it. Let's rewind for a second. Sanders didn't enter the league asking for special treatment. He didn't walk in flashing watches or posting cryptic Instagrams. He showed up early to camp, learned the system, worked with the third team, and quietly outplayed almost every quarterback on the field. He was surgical in red zone drills, calm under pressure, a natural leader in film sessions, and still, somehow, not the one getting attention. Instead, the organization clung to excuses. He needs time. We're sticking with veterans. He has to earn it. Sure, because nothing says meritocracy like giving Deshaun Watson a guaranteed $230 million while pretending Shedeur's success is a fluke. Let's be real. This isn't about football. This is about optics, about control, about a franchise that's terrified of what Shedeur represents, a player who doesn't need Cleveland to validate him, someone who isn't begging for approval, someone who, despite being drafted way too late, carries himself like a franchise quarterback, not a desperate fifth-round pick looking to survive. And that rattles people, especially when your owner is Jimmy Haslam. You can almost see the gears turning in Haslam's mind. If Sanders succeeds, it makes us look foolish for not prioritizing him sooner. If he fails, we can say we knew better all along. It's not about winning. It's about staying in control of the narrative. That's the toxic cycle Shedeur's trapped in. And that's exactly what Louis Riddick, former front office exec and one of the sharpest voices in sports media, called out recently. He didn't mince words. He didn't dress it up. He torched Jimmy Haslam, calling the Browns' treatment of Shedeur short-sighted, insecure, and emblematic of everything wrong with how certain owners operate. Because it's not just that they've mishandled a rookie. It's that they've created a culture where accountability floats and blame sinks. Every time a season goes south, it's the coach, then the quarterback, then the GM, then the play caller. Haslam cycles through people like their temporary apps on his phone. Install, use, delete, repeat. No consistency. No structure, just vibes and vibes alone. And when a young quarterback comes in and immediately commands respect, without being handpicked by the owner. That's not viewed as a gift. It's viewed as a threat. The Browns, from the top down, have a weird relationship with leadership. They want a franchise guy, but only if he's their guy in their image, saying the things they want to hear. Shedeur doesn't fit that mold. He doesn't need to, and that's what's freaking them out. Because you can't build a franchise on power plays. You build it on belief, and not the kind of PR belief you feed to season ticket holders. The kind that shows up in actions, not slogans. The kind that gives your most talented players a chance to lead, not just a permission to exist. Shedeur's story is already being written like a cautionary tale, and he hasn't even started a regular season game yet. And yet, everything he's done since arriving in Cleveland has screamed QB1. Not just the mechanics, not just the stats, the composure, the attention to detail, the way teammates gravitate toward him during drills, the way he owns mistakes, asks for feedback, and keeps working even when the spotlight is off. You can't teach that. But apparently, you can ignore it. And that's where this thing is going off the rails. Because every day Sanders sits behind quarterbacks who haven't done anything to earn their spots. The locker room notices. Every time the coaching staff makes excuses instead of acknowledging what's happening on the field, the players start checking out. And when the owner pretends like nothing's wrong, like this isn't just the latest version of Cleveland cannibalizing itself, the rot spreads. And this is why Riddick went after Haslam so hard, because Haslam's the common denominator. Every quarterback disaster, every coach firing, every draft blunder, every culture reset, it always traces back to one thing: an owner who wants to play GM without doing the work, who wants to be loved by the fan base without earning their respect, who wants control without accountability. And now that same dysfunction is threatening to derail a quarterback who might be the best pure leader Cleveland has drafted in a decade. That's not just poor management. That's malpractice. And let's be clear, Shedeur Sanders didn't ask to carry this burden. He didn't walk into the Browns facility demanding to be the face of the franchise. But that's the role they're forcing him into. Because when everything else is broken, the fans look for someone to believe in. And right now, Shedeur is the only thing in that building that makes sense. But how long can he keep that up? Let's zoom in on the heart of this dysfunction, because it's not just about football, it's about identity, about the chasm between what the Cleveland Browns say they want and what they're actually willing to build. When they drafted Shedeur Sanders, whether they knew it or not, they took on more than just a quarterback. They took on a challenge, a player who came preloaded with expectations, media attention, and a sense of purpose that isn't easily boxed into a development timeline. And instead of rising to meet that challenge, the Browns did what they've always done. They blinked. Let's call it what it is: organizational cowardice. They saw what Shedeur could be. Hell, the players see it every day in practice. The crisp reads, the tempo, the calm, the fire when things go sideways. You don't need a scouting degree to know that he plays like he belongs. But what's stopping this team from putting him on the field isn't readiness. It's fear. Fear of backlash, fear of ego collisions, fear of being wrong. And fear is no foundation for success in the NFL. Meanwhile, Shedeur hasn't blinked once. He walks into meetings like a vet. He's installing new concepts with the offense before coaches finish drawing them on the whiteboard. He's asking for extra reps in 7-on-7s when everyone else is grabbing Gatorade. You know what that's called? It's not hype. It's not marketing. It's leadership. But what's leadership without buy-in from the top? Because let's be honest, the Haslam ownership group doesn't have a great track record of letting leadership emerge organically. Every time something starts to work, they put a thumb on the scale. A new coordinator here, a mid-season firing there, whispers in the media, closed-door meetings with front office heads who haven't set foot on the practice field. It's all theater, and Shedeur isn't playing that game. That's what makes this situation so combustible. Not because Shedeur is difficult. He isn't. But because he refuses to conform to a culture that doesn't value merit. He's not interested in waiting quietly in the corner while quarterbacks with worse footwork and lower completion rates get first-team reps. And he shouldn't be, because talent doesn't wait. Leadership doesn't wait. And momentum sure as hell doesn't wait. And you know who else isn't waiting? the rest of the locker room. The defensive unit, who's had to clean up messes from bad offensive decisions for years, sees what's happening and they're watching carefully. The offensive linemen, who block for a carousel of erratic quarterbacks, have started changing their communication calls when Shedeur's under center because they trust his instincts more. And the wide receivers? They're catching passes in stride for the first time in a while. A veteran reportedly told an assistant, "It just feels cleaner with 14 out there, like we're not guessing." But despite all that, what do the Browns do? They stall. They rotate him inconsistently. They hide behind process and development and systems. Classic camouflage for inaction. What they should be doing is building around him. Imagine what could happen if they committed, not halfway, not in the shadows, fully, give him the ones. Install the playbook that suits him. Build the line to protect him. Give him weapons who can grow with him, not just carry him. Let him own the huddle. Let him lead. Let him fail and succeed on his own terms. Because here's the thing no one wants to say out loud. Shedeur Sanders isn't just ready to play. He's ready to fail. And that's what separates quarterbacks from franchise quarterbacks. Anyone can look good in shorts and shells. Anyone can hit practice throws. But only a true leader wants the responsibility that comes with the title. Shedeur has never ducked that. Not in high school, not at Jackson State, not at Colorado, and definitely not now. The real question is, can the Browns match that maturity? Because history says no. But history doesn't have to write the ending here. This isn't just another camp competition. This is a crossroads moment. You've got a rookie quarterback with high-level instincts and elite composure, and a franchise that hasn't had either in years. If you can't recognize that opportunity, you don't deserve success. Let's rewind again to the draft, because this part still stings. Pick 144. That number is going to haunt some executives. Because the moment Shedeur starts under center, whether it's in Cleveland or for another team, you know what's going to happen. The clips will surface. The debates will ignite. How did 10 other quarterbacks go ahead of him? How did Cleveland of all teams let him rot on the bench for months? The irony? The Browns could have looked like geniuses. Instead, they're making it look like they stumbled into gold and decided to bury it. There's a different kind of pressure brewing in Berea now. Not the pressure to win games, though that's always there, but the pressure to prove that this isn't just the same old Browns, that they can finally break the cycle of short-term thinking, petty power struggles, and dysfunctional leadership. But time is running out. Shedeur is ready now. He's showing it every day. And if the team doesn't capitalize soon, they're going to lose more than just momentum. They're going to lose the locker room. You can't keep telling grown men that performance matters when the best performing guy isn't playing. That doesn't fly in the NFL. It's not college. It's not a branding exercise. It's wins and losses. And the losses will come fast if the situation isn't handled right. The scariest part? The Browns might actually believe they're playing this smart. That waiting is the wise move. That keeping Shedeur in the shadows protects him. But quarterbacks don't learn in shadows. They learn in fire. And Shedeur's already proven he's fireproof. Now let's talk endgame. If Cleveland turns a corner, if they stop overthinking, stop politicking, and start playing to win, then Sanders could usher in a new era. One where the team is actually led by its most talented voice. One where young players have room to grow. One where Cleveland finally plays ahead of the curve instead of behind it. But if they don't, he's gone. Not tomorrow. Not next week. But soon. And when that happens, some other franchise will roll out the red carpet, hand the keys, and say, "Lead us." And he will, because he's not just a quarterback. He's a culture changer. And the Browns either embrace that or watch from the sidelines as someone else does. Let's wrap this up with some cold truth. Dysfunction is not a curse. It's a choice. The Browns are not doomed by fate. They're dragged down by decisions. And Shedeur Sanders? He might just be the one decision that changes everything. If they let him. If they don't expect him to wait, because greatness never does. Let's stay in the mess, because this isn't just about a quarterback battle. It's about what kind of organization the Cleveland Browns actually want to be. At its core, This whole saga with Shedeur Sanders isn't complicated. It only looks complicated because the Browns have a long history of turning straight lines into circles. They take a quarterback who checks all the boxes: talent, work ethic, leadership, maturity, and instead of clearing the runway, they put up detour signs, pile on red tape, and wonder why the offense can't get off the ground. And here's where it gets even more tragic. They're doing it again in real time with a quarterback who could finally rewrite their broken script. Shedeur Sanders didn't show up in Cleveland asking for a parade. He didn't try to big league the vets. He wasn't begging for spotlight or fighting the staff. What did he do? He got to work. He learned the system faster than anyone expected. He impressed his teammates without trying to win them over. He made throws that looked like they belonged on Sundays, not just scrimmages. And through it all, he stayed cool. That's rare for a rookie. But you know what's even rarer? A rookie quarterback walking into an NFL building and immediately being more composed than the people running it. Because let's talk about that front office. The Browns under Jimmy Haslam haven't exactly been a model of stability. GMs come and go. Coaches get hired, fired, rehired, and shuffled into weird consultant roles. Quarterbacks are drafted and discarded like defective toys. And in between every misstep, there's always a press conference about how the process is working and we believe in our direction. Except the direction is always sideways. So here's Shedeur, caught between what he is, a legit NFL talent, and what the Browns are, a franchise so insecure about its past that it refuses to embrace its present. And that's the real issue. Because deep down, Cleveland doesn't trust success. Not when it comes too fast. Not when it doesn't arrive on their terms. The people in power are more comfortable managing failure than leading progress. And Shedeur's rise? It doesn't fit the blueprint they had in mind. He was supposed to be a backup, a story, a long-term play, something they could spin into a narrative 2 years from now when things got desperate. But now he's pushing the timeline. He's outperforming veterans. He's outpacing the learning curve. He's doing all the things they didn't budget for. And instead of adapting, they're freezing. Let's be real. If Shedeur had been drafted by a team like the Eagles or the Chiefs or even the Texans, he'd be in a full quarterback competition already. They'd be testing him with the ones, giving him real installs, not burying him in the scout team rotation like he's a camp arm. But in Cleveland, they treat potential like a liability. And the worst part? The team knows it. There's been buzz inside the locker room that this is different. Not just the way Shedeur plays, but how the team responds when he's under center. The huddle feels tighter. The communication feels sharper. He commands without barking. He leads without forcing it. That kind of presence is intangible, but every player in that room feels it. And every day he doesn't get meaningful reps, that locker room trust gets a little shakier. Because it's not just about one guy. It's about the whole culture. If you reward politics over production, the team sees it. If you bench the guy who's clearly earned a shot, the team feels it. And eventually, they stop trusting the coaches. Then they stop trusting the front office. And then, like clockwork, the team unravels from the inside out. Sound familiar? That's been the Browns' loop for years. Talent, hope, mismanagement, collapse, repeat. And now they're staring at a chance to break that cycle and hesitating. It's not that Shedeur is perfect. He's a rookie. He'll make mistakes. He'll miss reads. He'll take bad sacks. But guess what? So will the veterans. The difference is Sanders is making mistakes of growth, not mistakes of regression. And that distinction is everything. Because you can coach growth. You can build on it. You can shape it. But regression? Regression is a symptom of something that's already broken. And speaking of broken, let's talk about the quarterback room. It's no secret that Deshaun Watson's tenure in Cleveland has been complicated. Between health concerns, rust, media distraction, and sky-high expectations, he hasn't exactly locked down the role like ownership hoped he would. And when your $230 million quarterback is still a question mark, everything else gets messy. Joe Flacco, the veteran fallback, has had flashes, sure, but he's not the guy you bet the future on. Dylan Gabriel, toolsy but raw. Malik, athletic but inconsistent. It's a crowded room, but not a competitive one. because the only one really turning heads right now is the rookie, and that's the problem. It's not just about Shedeur being good. It's about him being too good, too soon, for a team that wasn't emotionally prepared for that reality. This isn't just about ability. It's about timing, about narrative, about optics. The Browns want to manage Shedeur, but Shedeur is managing expectations on his own. Every day he throws a perfect red zone pass or leads a clean 2-minute drill. He's forcing the coaching staff to ask themselves, are we really going to let this guy sit behind 3 quarterbacks who don't move the needle? And if the answer is yes, then this isn't about football anymore. This is about ego, about control, about pride, which brings us right back to Jimmy Haslam. The man wants to win, no doubt about that, but he also wants to be right. And sometimes those two goals don't align, because being right might mean sticking with a plan that isn't working just to say it was a mistake. And in a results-driven league like the NFL, that kind of stubbornness is lethal. You can't win if you're scared to pivot. So what happens next? If Shedeur keeps performing, and every sign says he will, the pressure will build from inside, from outside, from everywhere. And eventually, something will crack. Either Stefanski makes the bold call and opens up the competition, or the Browns do what they've done too often, bury the moment and pretend it never happened. But here's the thing, the fans aren't blind anymore. This city has suffered through too many false starts to miss a real opportunity. When it shows up, they see Shedeur, they feel the shift, and if the team refuses to act, it won't just be a quarterback controversy. It'll be a full-on credibility crisis. Because how do you ask fans to believe in the process when the process ignores its own results? The worst-case scenario here isn't that Shedeur starts and struggles. It's that he sits, withers, and then flourishes elsewhere. Because if that happens, the Browns don't just lose a quarterback. They lose the moral high ground. They lose the right to say they're building something. And they lose the locker room for good. But the best-case scenario? That's still on the table. Stefanski opens it up. Shedeur gets a real shot. Maybe he earns it. Maybe he doesn't. But it's a fair fight. And in that kind of environment, everyone wins. The players trust the process. The coaches prove they're serious. And the front office finally back a decision that's about performance, not politics. That's the path forward. That's the future Cleveland could have.